expansions can be tricky, right? Because at some point, you just feel like they muddy up the game that you already like so much to the point that it's pulling your focus away and maybe not worth the extra effort. But then sometimes you find that perfect one that just rounds out the game beautifully or just really increases the parts of the game you already love. So today I want to take a look at a couple expansions and see kind of where they fall on that scale for me. Are they worth it? Do they fix the base game? Do they enhance the base game? And ultimately, are they worth adding into a game you already like? Hey guys, welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla, and today I'm going to be taking a look at 3 different expansions for games I already like. So I'll be really clear on that. These are games that I like, that I'm hoping are really just going to either expand the gameplay or give me more variability without changing the game too much, because I like the game. I don't want it to be muddied or complicated or really just weigh it down. There's that tipping point where it changes it too much and to me, detracts from the base. So I'm going to be taking a look at Sea of Legends. This is the newest expansion, The Vengeance of the Empires. We're going to be taking a look at Meadow Adventure Book, which is, again, the latest expansion. It's the second expansion for Meadow. It's going to give us some campaign and scenarios there. And then also Explorers of Navoria, Forgotten Lands. Let's dive in. All right, let's jump in first with the Sea of Legends. Vengeance of the Empires. This expansion is going to be one of those more of what you already love. However, it's also going to try to fix some prior mistakes in the base game. The base game of this, Sea of Legends, came out with quite a few errors. The app wasn't quite ready to launch once backers began receiving this game. It's now been fixed. It's in its second version. I've not had any problems with it. Of course, let me know down in the comments below if you're still finding it glitchy or anything like that. For me, it's been a really smooth experience. And then it's also going to bring some variability with the new captains and the different factions, the NPC factions. In this game, you always play with 3 NPC factions, 1 which has to be in every game, and then 2 of which you choose. So for those 2 that you choose, this is going to give you 5 more options. I think that's great. I think it's fantastic that you have that variability, that flexibility if you've played out the original factions, or maybe you're just able to find some that more fit your taste. The really big thing it did, like I said, it's going to bring some clarity to the base game. It's going to come with a new rulebook for the base game, which is just giving more clarification, more examples, better organization, and it's also going to come with a faction guide. This one here is for the Vengeance of the Empire, the faction guide. This faction guide is fantastic as it has a whole dedicated section to the factions you choose to play, which is going to bring any special language they might have, any movement rules, clarification on the winning, because each NPC will win a different way. It also is going to come with player aids, once again, that have a flow chart for these. So it's really just going to ease that phase of the game, ease up the burden of that game when you're having to control the NPCs so that you get back to the player's turns quicker and more smoothly. That being said, I don't think they quite nailed this part. I have played the base game quite a bit, so I'm familiar with it. I've already kind of done the hard, gritty work to get to that point. So for me, the player aids were a great enhancement. They made sense to me. I'm really able to handle that NPC phase pretty well and pretty smoothly, and it was more of just a reference sheet. I did play with people who hadn't played, and they struggled controlling the NPCs still on the flow chart because it still has the terminology. So they're balancing the player aid and then coming back to the rule book and going back. Now, with repeated plays, this goes away, of course, but it didn't quite ease that entry point for the NPC movement and stuff as much as I would have liked to see. I do want to point out too, the player aid for the town actions, or sorry, not the town actions, the islands that you can go to, the hiring crew and going to the pub or the bar, or whatever one it is. That still has a typo. This was their opportunity to fix something from the base game, and they tried, and it still has a typo. I think that's pretty inexcusable. That being said, I love the variability it brings to it, so I'm going to come in at an 8 on this. I think it's a good expansion. If you're playing the game a lot and you're looking for that variability, this is going to give it. But if this is an entry point, it's still a tough one to get into, so I can't go much higher than an 8. And that's going to be Sea of Legends, Vengeance of the Empires. All right, the next one up here is going to be for Explorers of Navoria. This is Forgotten Lands. This is one, actually, I was not really that interested in after playing the base game, because I found the base game to be very pleasing. A super sweet spot of low overhead with rules, but great return on the gameplay and time investment. Still had good, without being complicated by rules, still had a lot of good decisions and tension through the different rounds. So I was very pleased with the base game and didn't really want an expansion or think it brought much more than solo play and a 5 to 6 player expansion. I'm sorry, a 5-player expansion, not 6, just a 5-player expansion. So it took it to solo and 5 players. So I kind of wrote it off. But then in the comments of our review, people were talking about the expansion, saying how the expansion really elevated the gameplay for them, wondering our thoughts on the expansion. So this is because of you guys that I actually took a look at it. And I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. I thought the expansion is an 8.5. Do I think it's necessary? No. I think that it brings some variability and different strategies into the game, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary or changed it enough that I think you have to have it. I have no interest in ever playing this game at 5 players. I think it's already quite a bit of a table hog for how deep of a game it is. It takes up a lot of space, and the expansion doesn't really seamlessly fit into the board. And by that, there's clear spaces for each of the card types that you can take. This new color sits below the board in order to have the new town action that you can take to get the contract tokens. That's an overlay, which there's already so much going on the board. It's just makes it even a little bit more messy, a little bit less legible. So for me, those are kind of the big negative takeaways from this. But I really do enjoy the asymmetric power. I love the flexibility of the contracts. I like that new location in the town that you can go to. The contracts are also worth end game points, so you can use them to power up your special ability, or it plays into that end game points if you don't. If you don't end up using them or find it really being useful. I think it also offers flexibility in why you would take cards, because these contract cards have 2 color types, which is going to play into the end game scoring for the different sets that you've collected. So that's fun. Yes, you're not going to be building up your sets, but once you have your set scoring set, I guess, or chosen, once you've collected your 5 animal symbols and you know that what colors are going to score for you at the end of the game, you can really use the contract cards there to boost that up with their different colors. So I like that as well. I think it gives you, once again, some flexibility and strategy when you're going to go for what, and kind of, eases the pressure off some of the spots you'd go to, but also increases the tension because it's one more that you really want that just fits perfectly for you. So I think this is a great expansion. It's one that I'm throwing in my base game. It still fits in the base box, so I'm throwing it in with it, and I'll probably always play with it. I don't think it's a rush to buy it, but I'm glad I have it. So for me, it's an 8.5. All right, guys, this last one, I'm coming right out of the gates here and saying I love it. I'm coming in at a 10 on the Meadow adventure book. This is everything I wanted it to be. We've had delays on this. It's over a year late. They didn't make the Essen release that they had hoped for because of shipping issues. Finally in my hands, finally able to go through it, and it blew me away. It really is so much better than I was expecting, and I had extremely high hopes for this. I love that this is so seamlessly both a campaign that you can go through and also standalone events that stand unique to each other, and they build really well if you go through the campaign. They stand strong individually. I think the production on this is fantastic. Each scenario has its own tuck box, which is going to keep all the components for that individual scenario. They're all labeled really well, so if you want to mix it into your base game and go back to the base game, you can. If you want to just do it standalone, you can pull them out really quick as well. I love that each scenario has personality. It really makes you focus on one strategy or one specific part of the game. If you're really good at stacking up your high, building up high in your meadow, there's going to be scenarios that's going to challenge you and really reward you for playing out long, or maybe having to play out in a certain order. If, your strength or your weakness, I guess, is actually getting the camp tokens out for the point tokens. I can't remember what they're called right now, but having the right symbols on your board and then taking that camp action. There's ones that super focus on that and even change it as the game goes. So in the middle of the game, there's there's new tokens out there, and so you kind of find yourself planning ahead, trying to not just line up those symbols right now, but also a few turns in the future as well. So I really like that. I like that it can seamlessly, I guess, fold into the base game. And I think the key here for me is because it's replacing the campfire board. Whichever scenario you do, comes with its own campfire board. So it's not increasing the complexity, it's not increasing the table presence, it's not increasing the overhead of the base game. This feels like a sideways step that is just different modules or different takes on the base game, but still give you such a rewarding and thinky experience. The tension of going to the grid, you know, and kind of that open drafting part is still there. The tension and pacing that you have to maintain of when to take that campfire action, making sure that you're ready to take it at key points to really optimize that action, but also make sure you don't get locked out because that's limited how many people can go there. It's still there. So this just takes everything I love about the base game, takes a sideways step, but really broadens that experience with a lot of variability. I don't know that I could pick a favorite of the scenarios that you can play through. Maybe the windmill one, just because the production is so great on that. The fact that the windmill is magnetic, you know, as it turns, and it's really satisfying to actually get those fans on the windmill. So maybe, but I've really enjoyed all of them, and I think it enhances the base game exactly how I want it to. Now, it won't fit into the base game. This will be an addition to the base game, but the way it's organized, that doesn't bother me. But you do need to know this will be a 2-box game at this point. So yeah, for me, the Meadow adventure book, I had huge expectations. They not only met it blew it out of the water. Well worth the wait. Very happy. It's a 10 for that expansion. All right, well, there you have it. For me, this is a pretty strong slate of expansions. Like I said before, expansions are hard because I definitely have found sometimes once I add an expansion in, I no longer want to get it to the table. It just complicates the game so much, or it's just too much to think about. I have to remember how to play the base game and remember how to play the expansion. It just keeps it from getting to the table. So far, none of these 3 have done that for me, so I think this is a strong slate of expansions here. I'm happy to have them all 3 in my collection, but ultimately, you have to make that decision for yourself. Which ones for you have enhanced the gameplay or detracted from it? And what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, I'm Camilla. Have fun gaming.
Hey folks, thanks for watching another one of our videos. If you like our videos, if you like our channel, you would love to game with us at one of our conventions. Check out Dice Tower Cruise, Dice Tower East, and Dice Tower West. Fantastic conventions where we play games with wonderful people, a humongous library, and lots of other events and stuff. Also, don't forget to check out our channel, like and subscribe. I'm Tom Bassel.